everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Roy Kenny.
I'm Joey Evans.
Today we're talking about a game called Age of Heroes. And I think to be clear, we should say Age of Heroes Marvel because Age of Heroes is kind of a generic name. But I was pretty pumped about this game, not because of the Marvel theme, although I do like the Marvel theme.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
And I love his artwork, but it's designed by Rodney Thompson, who's probably best known for Lords of Waterdeep. And in fact, there was like early talk that this was kind of a version of Lords of Waterdeep.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I don't need it to be exactly the same, but Lords of Waterdeep with X-Men sounds good.
Sounds awesome.
Marvel Euro.
Yeah, Marvel Euro. There isn't many of those, actually. They're
Marvel
mostly
Euro.
deck builders or straight
Thematic
up
games.
Yeah, things like that.
Dungeon crawl.
No,
I wish there was a dungeon
you
crawl.
wish there was a dungeon crawl.
I do wish there was a dungeon crawl.
Well, anyway, let's take a look at how the game works. We'll be right back. So in this game, you're going to pick a pair of people. You can take Gambit and Rogue, Jubilee and Wolverine, Kitty Pryde and Lockheed, Magic. Well, she's not really a pair. I guess she comes with her sword. Jean Grey and Cyclops, or Forge and Storm. Whoever you pick, you're going to have a certain number of standees based on a number of players. So if I'm playing with 2 players, I'm going to use all 6. But if I'm playing with just 4 players, then, for example, I'll have 2 Storms and 1 Forge. You can play on 2 different sides. This is the basic side. This is the advanced side. The advanced side has an extra way to score when you damage bad guys. Also, you have a certain number of evolution cards. You always get, if you play on the other side, you'll just take the ones that say recommended on them. But if you play on the advanced side, you can pick these cards. As the game goes by, you're going to have a chance to play these cards, which will do things for you. Like at the beginning of the round, I can turn 4 red cubes and a blue cube in to get a generic worker or a trainee. In this game, they're called. Some evolution cards can only be played in certain slots. This one, for example, gives me +3 trainee capacity. I have room for 2. This would give me 3 more. So you're going to have a chance to play these over the course of the game. They get expensive to play after a while, but you'll choose them. You're also going to start with physical, mental, and willpower. These white lines show where the different cubes start for each one while you're playing. You're also going to pick 3, they're from 3 different scenarios. There is Children of the Atom, there is Fatal Attractions, and there is Fall of the Mutants. So whichever one you pick, you'll put these boards out. These show you which boards to play, and you'll kind of randomly attach some minor enemies to them. As the game goes by, when a minor enemy is defeated, you'll bring out a villain, which might be a harder enemy to fight, and eventually you will bring out the final villain of that scenario with their own little board. When these boards are here, because you'll be able to attack them and do damage to them, the amount of damage depends on the villain themselves. So Sabretooth, for example, needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So only these lines count. So this means you need to you spend 8 yellow cubes and 5 blue cubes, or if you want to use the theming, 8 mental attack and 5 willpower attack, and you'll do a damage, omega type damage to him, which will give you 9 points, or 2, 3, and 3 to get 10 points, 2 and 9 to get 15 points, 7, 7 to get 8 points, and so on. And so these boards are going to attach in different ways, and you can see that when you fight the final boss here, you'll notice he has a whole lot more hit points to defeat him. When you defeat them, there will be some extra points given out depending on what it says on the villain. The game itself is going to consist of players in turn order placing these different X-Men on the board. And the reason you might have different X-Men, like for example Forge or Storm, is your game evolution cards might say something like, for example, weather control says before assigning Storm, then this ability will happen. It wouldn't happen when you place out your Forge. At the beginning of the game, there's only so many places to place the different people. You can place them on these spaces in the headmaster's office, and on these extra spaces if you're playing with 4, or heaven forbid, 5 players. You can place them in the medical bay, on these 2 spots, the danger room, research lab, and dormitories. These 3 spots here give you 2 blue cubes, 3 yellow cubes, and 4 red cubes. You don't actually get the cubes. You just move up on your respective tracks. If you go to Cerebro, you can play a card from your hand. Players will start with cards from their hand and they have a chance to get more of them. These are called ally cards. You can play them to any spot on the board. You'll put a token of your color there to show that that is yours. Now there's a space that other people can go to besides these other ones. These spaces will do better things. For example, this gives you 8 red cubes, and then it tells you to put 2 red tokens on a space other than this one. So you'll get out, there's a bunch of tokens in this game. You would put these tokens on their space. When someone goes to that space, they'll get 2 red cubes. However, when someone goes there other than the gray player will also get the bonus. And so the bonus here, for example, is draw a card from up here into your hand, or you can draw off the top of the deck. Speaking of drawing cards, this place here, whenever you go there, you have to put a card out here from your hand, and then you'll draw 2 or 3 cards, which can be from here or the top of the deck. There are 3 types of cards. There are these ally cards, like this one gives you 4 red and 3 yellow. This one here is for very specific fatal attractions, which lets you convert this token into these different things here. And you can place these on the board again. They give you bonuses depending on other people going there. Then there are these blue cards here, the mission cards. These will be placed in this region down here. We'll talk about those in just a second. And there are event cards. An event card can only be played when you go to one of these spots. It lets you play an event card. So you play this event card, which lets me put out a green card. There's all sorts of event cards. Now, this spot here lets you play one of your evolution cards. I already talked about those, how to upgrade your hero. And those are the basic spaces. As you can see, though, as allies are played, there'll be more and more spaces. The last thing you can do is you can place people in the X-Jet. The first person to place it gets to put out a blue card. Again, you would put a token of your color there to show that it's yours. Once the round is over, everyone's placed people, then the X-Jet people come out. They can be placed on a blue card. They can be placed in the extraction zone. There's unlimited amount of people can be placed there. And this will do something for you depending on the rounds. For example, the first 3 rounds, take a cube of your choice or turn a yellow cube in to draw 2. And then it flips over in rounds 4 through 6. Turn 2 red cubes to put out an evolution, or a blue cube to get 2 of these trainees. These are extra workers that you can place out. They can't go in the X-Jet, but they can go in other spots on the board, and you can save them from round to round. But once you use them, they go away, unlike your regular workers. There also is a possibility to have some allies down here that can give you bonuses, but you're mostly from the jet, you're trying to take out the bad guys. So I already mentioned, when there's a bad guy there, you just land on this spot, you'll pay that many, you'll get that many points, and you'll put your token on top of it to show that nobody else can go and defeat that villain in that spot. And when they're all covered, that villain's defeated. And when the final villain, this is Mr. Sinister for this game, when they're defeated, the game will end and you'll see who has the most points. You can also go to these cards, which will give the person who owns it 3 points, but these cards will give you a different combination of cubes. So this is a 1 red, 2 yellow, and 3 blue, and it lets me put out a damage token on a gray spot. So if there's an open spot, instead of paying, for example, 4 red and 8 blue, I'll pay those costs, and I get to go here and get the 6 points. Once all the people from the jet are placed out, you retrieve your workers, and you'll start the next round. And that's pretty much the game. There's different rules that will be in effect. They're called parameters. If you play the original one, Children of the Atom, there's not a lot of special rules, but Fatal Attractions and Fall of Mutants add more rules to the game. And then there's all sorts of cards in here. You can see the different X-Men. There's Sync and Wolfsbane, the Stepford Cuckoos, and Mondo and Skin. These are mostly like the young X-Men. Well, there's Banshee. There's Bishop. Let's see who else we have in here. Emma Frost, Iceman. So you can see the different kind of artwork that's in the game. And then depending on what mission you play, there's the Mystique, the 4 Horsemen, Lady Deathstrike, Mesmero, Toad, Pyro, Sauron, Avalanche, Pestilence, and Apocalypse, different villains that you'll fight. And that's how you play the game. Okay, first of all, theming.
I thought it was really cool. I mean, X-Men is like my favorite Marvel theme in general. So like, I love that theme, and I love the idea of like running out there and trying to recruit different characters and take out the bad guy. Overall, the theme is kind of like, get these cubes, to deposit these cubes on this bad guy's life bar. So it is a Euro game, so there is that. And it doesn't feel like you're taking combat damage as a hero or anything like that. But as far as like this style of game, like it's like the amount of theme you would expect. D&D theme on Lords of Waterdeep. This is X-Men theme on Age of Heroes, you know. So it's going to be not as thematic overall, but I do enjoy the aspects of the theme and the powers that you kind of get for the different characters.
And I agree with that. I think the theme is there. I mean, with the little minis, or I guess the little shrinky dinks or whatever, the
Shrinky dinks.
little acrylics and all that. I love it. And the cards, and there's thematic stuff like Colossus, the way he just hits. You know, when his card comes out, he just hits. So there's that type of theme, but it is similar to Lords of Waterdeep. Those people that go into it expecting it to be some big battler or D&D, and it's not, it's worker placement. So that's the same feeling here. You do start placing your workers and stuff, but it's kind of thematic and being able to place them, you know, certain places and do different battles and all that. So I don't know. I do like it, but it is, if you're looking for a boss battler, this isn't it.
Iceman gives you 6 red cubes.
Yeah, which Roy never uses.
These guys are being extremely generous. I would say the theme is almost negative. I hate the fact that there's almost no theme in this. The art is beautiful. The miniatures look good. Most of the characters, like they say, are like 6 blue cubes. Thanks, Iceman. I don't even know what that means.
It's red cubes. It's red cubes for sure.
Whatever. Don't care. Now, but taking that out, I mean, you could, so yes, I can be like, okay, I don't care. We're fighting these bad guys.
Yeah.
We're using cubes. I mean, again, Lords of Waterdeep style. I have a lot of problems with this game. You guys might refute them, but the first is game length is way too long. And not only is it way too long, it slogs at the end.
Right.
Because a lot of actions become a lot less useful, like playing cards out on the board.
Right.
Or you want to send someone out to go on a mission, but everything's covered up except one thing or 2 things, and you don't have the cubes to do those things. And I want to get the cubes, but someone else already took the spots.
Right.
And it just feels very sloggy. But also, this says on the box here that this is 60 to 90 minutes. That is a flat-out
that's
falsehood.
wrong. It's way
falsehood.
longer. And it's also more interesting because it slogs even more because if you're not winning, because you go through and fight bosses, basically.
Right.
You defeat the level 1 boss, and then you switch out one of those for a level 2, and then you go to the main boss, which is interesting, but like, you shouldn't be fighting the main boss if you're not winning the game because you don't want the game to end. So if you're not both all focusing on the main boss to force the game to end, which if you're not winning, you shouldn't do that because you're going to lose the game. So it can make the game take even longer as other people are not fighting the main boss to force the game to end. I think the in-game condition in this is wrong, or it just needs to be slowed down, or they need to have different modes. Like, they need to have an easier, simpler, quicker mode, because like, this just takes an extremely long time to play.
It suffers from the problem where, that I think is a real big hindrance to games. It doesn't make you wish it was longer. It makes you thankful it's over, because you're having a good time towards the beginning, middle, and then you're like, are we near there? Because you're right, you run out of actions towards the end, or not run out of actions, run out of actions that really are beneficial to you.
Right.
That's a huge problem.
I was foregoing points in this. Like, I could go here and get a lot more points, or I could go here and go towards ending the game. I'm like, let's just end the game.
He was just really, you're just really trying to end the game. Like, guys, let's move on. And that was a feeling you did not want to have.
Yeah, I don't know that. When we were sitting there playing, and I'm like, oh, we finally took out a bad guy. Now we have an intermediate. I was like, whoa, we got to take out that guy to get to the final. And even that doesn't end the game. That's a lot of things to do. Another problem I have with the game is math. I love math. Math can make sense in a lot of games. You turn in a yellow and a blue cube and get 5 points, but 2 yellows and a blue cube gives you 8. Here, I could not figure it out.
No.
They have different types of damage on the bad guys, and you could say some are better than others, and you want to do, if you play the advanced game, which you should, by the way, you get more points if you do your type of damage.
Right.
But I found that I would be like, what damage can I do? I have 8 red, 4 yellow, 5 blue. But I was like, that gives me 15 points. I guess. I never was like, I don't know. The points just seemed all over the place. I was never sure what the best space was.
Yeah, you really have to do value judgments on the fly, especially because there's a whole bar of like things you can attack the bad guy with, and that's randomly lined up against different amounts of points, and like it goes into higher values. But like most of the time, I wasn't even using those. I was just using the team up cards on the board.
Right.
Because a lot of team up cards let you take out one of those for free. And then I played with Jubilee that let me manipulate the icon so I could take out whichever one I wanted for free. So it's like, whichever one's the highest point value, I'll just take that. So there's a lot of weird, strange manipulation with the team up guys that you're placing things on, and then the fact that you could just go straight over to the bad guy thing and pay cubes there. I almost never did that. I almost always just used the team-up cards.
Well, that's the thing. You get a lot of AP by trying to figure out, okay, so total cubes, this takes like 8 yellow and 4 red, but this will be 3 blue, and you're like, the whole thing, you're figuring out what the best way is, and you get 3 extra points here. That's a lot of... And it just feels weird in a game that you're supposed to be battling something. That's what kind of slows it down and bogs it down a bit.
And what kind of compounds that to me then is how boring the action spaces are. I can go here and get 2 blue cubes. So Joey takes that. I'm like, I would also like blue cubes. Where can I go? And the answer is nowhere until an ally card comes out, which it might never do.
You
Bad
really
grammar. It might never happen.
You really have to bring out the ally. Like the very first thing we did in our games or whatever was bring out allies as fast as possible, so that way we could get points off of other people. Because it has that Lords of Waterdeep thing. And I
like that.
Where it's like when you put out a character, you're going to put your little disc beside it, and then you can choose kind of which resource you're going to get or which benefit you're going to get when someone goes to your space. And then that space is there, so even if they don't go there, you can still have another space to go to. But then there's also this whole thing of like putting tokens out on the board to like kind of like honeypot your space or entice them to go to your space, which is another interesting concept as well. It has a lot of interesting concepts, but there's a lot of like pitfalls with it as well.
But I think that concept, that's one thing I really disliked about this game. Those tokens were so fiddly. It's like, here, take 8 red. Now put 2 red in another space. So now we have analysis paralysis while you're sitting there trying to think, which space does no one else really want to go to?
Really? That's the opposite of what we did. We put it like on our spaces so that way people would go there. So it's like, well, if they go there and get that token, I'm also going to get my benefit for them going to my space.
Sure, but your space might be covered up, and then it's like drags out.
And then you have the problem where you don't go to those people's spaces a lot to avoid, like, I never got workers. I had the space that I would get a worker. Somebody went there, nobody went there, which happens a lot. But then also when you place the allies out first, which is a good plan, towards the end, you really wish you had different allies because those no longer benefit you as much 90 minutes in as they did 10 or 15 minutes in. That is a problem you ran into, and the spaces are done.
The X-Jet thing is also interesting because it's like so important. The fact that you can go to the X-Jet and some of those team-ups can like let you defeat the bad guy a little bit for free.
Right.
And then some of them are like, this one lets you defeat a bad guy for free. This one lets you defeat the bad guy for like 6 red cubes and 4 yellow. It's like, holy smokes, the price difference in that is insane. So it's like getting over there first is like #1 priority. It's like, I need to be in first tournament or go over here first.
I agree. I don't.
It's like, holy smokes.
Also, you get to put a blue card out if you go there first.
Yeah, it's like.
That's the big thing. Everybody go there first, right off the bat, to throw one out.
Until all the blue cards are out, then it's not interesting.
Why go? Now, what do you guys think about the whole, you're fighting a villain, but you're also working against each other? That was a kind of odd thing for me.
I guess you're fighting the villain, and it's like, woo, I did better.
I guess.
Also, if you read the comics, they do argue all the time.
They do. That's the difference with the X-Men and the real heroes.
I think some people are going to like this, but for me, there's too many negative factors. I really, and the thing is, I lean towards Marvel. I think the art in this game is fantastic.
I agree.
The watercolors, it's actually using my favorite period. I mean, this is the period I grew up on of X-Men.
Yeah.
You know, of these people, and had Generation X characters in there, which I liked. So all that's working for it, and I like worker placement. There's definitely a lot of things copied from Lords of Waterdeep, like the X-Jet is copied from Lords of Waterdeep, where you put those other tokens out, and like you play an event card, then you can put it out later on. That's all cool, but it's not streamlined at all.
That is true.
There's a lot of allies that are weird. Like this one copies another ally. Well, that's no good till another ally is out, then I might not want to copy it. And the game has a very weird curve where it's really interesting about turn 4 and 5. Turns 1 and 2, there's not enough cool spots to go to.
Right.
Then on later turns, a lot of spots are no longer useful. Like, no one wants to go to my place a green card because all the green cards are out. So for me, this is a 5, and that's only because I like the art and everything, and I like those croak standees. It might even be if it wasn't for that, it would probably be a 4. I disliked it that much.
Ooh, okay, I come in higher than that. I'm coming to 6.5, only because I like Lords of Waterdeep. This is very similar. I mean, even down to the player count. As the player count changes, the amount of workers you have. That's a similar thing to Waterdeep. A lot of things are similar. But really, if you can't pull someone into Waterdeep, this might be a way to go. My biggest thing that drops it a lot is the length of play. If there's any way they can come out with just making it quicker and snappier and ending sooner, I'd like it more. And I want to like this more. I think that's why it's a 6.5, because I want to like it. The artwork's great. I love reading the cards. But it just does fall short.
I'm actually coming in even higher than that, and I went into this knowing that this was a Euro-style game where it's not going to be as thematic, and it's going to be, I just imagined, okay, this is going to be Lords of Waterdeep because that's what I'd heard. But I'm coming into this on a 7. I do enjoy a lot of the actions, but the main thing that drags it down for me is the length. Like, the fact that it just takes so long. Honestly, if I was going to teach this to somebody, I might just house rule it and be like, we're going to fight a bad guy or 2 bad guys, or be like, when we defeat this guy, the game is over, and make the game way shorter so that way the spaces don't get bogged up and the game just plays way quicker. I think this just needed development, you know? This could have been way better if it just had like some solid development on it, just streamlining it. But
I agree.
7 for me.
Well, there you go, folks. That's Age of Heroes. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Roy Kennedy.
I'm Joey Evans.
Excelsior.
Did we all do different stuff?
The Cyclops.
I did Wolverine.
That's not the sound it makes. It's like water.